So here is something that we all should know about these cheap underwater metal detectors. Even if it's not this specific brand, everything of this style is probably going to be made in a similar fashion. First of all, I want to say that the performance of it, as far as it actually operating as intended, it does great. I've been able to find stuff in 3-4 inches of silt or sand. Had to dig down pretty deep to find, tin cans and other stuff that I was picking up. But this thing quit on me the other day, and it's broken, so couldn't hurt to take it apart and kind of like figure it out. So what I wanted to show you guys was basically on the inside we have this board, which is everything that runs the metal detector, and it's got some sort of gyroscopic sensor of some sort in there because you got to point it up to turn it on and off. This board is encased in this piece of foam, and then behind that there's literally just a piece of rubber that is pressed into there, and there's a slit in that where the wires come through for the 9-volt battery housing. What happened to mine was this outer seal, there's supposed to be an O-ring here, which actually it failed, and it let a little bit of water in, but enough water where it could seep through there, and since I'm using it like this, the water's going to seep through here and then want to make its way into here, find any little hole it can, and eventually get down to where the board is. So I got very, very lucky where the water that was on this board didn't actually fry anything out. It just got in places where it messed with the performance. So when I put a battery in, the light on the front would turn on, and occasionally it would buzz, but it wouldn't do anything no matter what position it was in, no matter if it was near metal or not. The light would just stay solid. So to fix this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reassemble it, but when I put this cork, or not this cork, when I put this rubber in, I'm going to take a hot glue gun and actually seal it. So even if this were to fail, this is not going to let water in past that. So on this board here, right here, I do believe that is a blocking diode, which means that it has reverse polarity protection. So that's also a handy feature if the battery were to, get a little water in the compartment and something were to happen. And so I'm not terribly worried about anything in this end if it's actually staying sealed. So I think my hot glue gun has warmed up sufficiently. So before we put this thing back together, let's just put a battery on it and test it and make sure it's functioning. Got to hold this board in the actual upright position for it to turn on. I got very lucky that I was able to just clean off the board and get it working again. So I'm going to reassemble it the way that it had been assembled. So we got this foam cover that was over this board. Has a little bit of vibration control and protection, a little bit of shock absorption. So we'll put that in there, and then we'll very carefully just push it down. I'm going to very carefully use a screwdriver, and I think that's seated as far as it's going to go. And then with this, I'm going to put this down as far as I can get it, but then I'm going to hot glue around it, and it appears that there may have been some sort of tape or sealant or something around here, but it wasn't very good and it didn't hold. So put that down as far as it'll go, and And now you can see, hopefully you can see, we have much more room than stock for the 9-volt to fit in. We can almost fit the entire 9-volt in there before the cap even goes on. So that's excellent. The other issue that I was noticing was that as you're twisting the cap on, that the battery would also want to rotate in there. So it was twisting the wires a little bit, and I had a little bit of a concern of these getting twisted too much and either internally breaking or ripping. So I was thinking about putting a little stop or something so the battery would have to sit in there. But I don't think that'll be much of an issue if I can have the battery sit in there this far. So now that this is completely down in there, we'll test it one more time just to make sure everything works before I glue it. So it's on, and it's sensing metal, and it turns off. So we're good. Let's just completely seal the bottom of this. All right. Make sure we get all around. And I don't need to use too much because the temperature of the hot glue, if I have it sitting upright, it'll naturally just want to settle and seal everywhere itself. So I'll let this sit upright for a few minutes while it cools, and then we can throw a battery in it, and the thing actually should be sealed now. And hopefully we won't have this continued issue. This O-ring still has to go back on it, so there's no reason we can't do that now. Although this O-ring, it does feel very thin and a little floppy. And it had this handle. We'll shove that on. Let me use this thing very gently just to hold it in place for a few minutes. And let's see if we'll rotate it just to keep it cool. So I'll put that aside. This end cap had a piece of foam in it, and if you can tell or not, there's water in here. The foam is damp. Yeah, gross. So I'm gonna see about replacing that foam or something. This is probably just so the battery can sit in there securely and doesn't bounce around. Dry that off. I'll probably put something else in there. Another piece of foam, a little bit of cloth, whatever. As of right now, even without that, I think it should still work fine. I think we fixed it. I think we're good. I would recommend this metal detector as a, a cheap beginner's one. It does work really well, but it just has that one issue, and if they could fix that and solve it and put some, seal it in the factory, I think it would do a lot better.